All right, what's good, everybody? It's Pragmatic here, aka VA, aka Center Hero from Trilla G ENT, and we're here with another episode of the Whatever Podcast where we talk about whatever. And so I have a very special guest here today, y'all. I'd like to welcome Juan Casimiro. He's been a mentor, he's been a luminary, he's been somebody that I've been able to learn from over the past, more than a decade at this point in my life. And it's really a privilege to be able to just sit down with you and talk on a little bit more one-on-one about your journey, about some of the things that you've been able to do, accomplish, and just like your vision for life. So welcome, Juan. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Victor. Always an honor. In general, my thing is empowering young people around the world. And it's a blessing to be in that position of helping others always. And especially folks like you that have taken those seeds that we planted with the seven mindsets and the Ultimate Life Summit some years ago, and how you have taken that to a whole nother level and executed all this. That to me is fantastic.
It means a lot. It means a lot. Thank you very much. And yeah, truly, truly. I can imagine as a mentor, right? Just being able to see cohorts of young folks grow and take some of the things that you've been able to pass on just from your own personal experience to them. And I can imagine to really see them just blossom, bloom, and just voyage with that can really touch your heart. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah,
So
well, I'm glad too. I'm glad you took the time to, number one, think of me and what I'm, what I've been doing. I love to share it and so forth.
absolutely. Well, before we get into like the gritty of the questions, I'm curious, Juan, how do you start your day? What are like some non-negotiables for you to set the precedent and set your pace?
Non-negotiables are walking into anything you're planning to do or achieve with a negative mindset. You always need to go into everything you choose to do or want to do or forecast to do, thinking that everything is possible. And knowing that that's a non-negotiable, regardless of how it turns out, you're going to get a result. It may not meet the goals that you may have set, but you still get a result, and then you learn from those things.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that too. All right, so first question, just like to set the scene. Take us back to 1982, if I did my research correct, when you first enrolled to attend the Ohio State University. I'm curious, what did you hope to achieve from your collegiate career? And did you get what you anticipated out of it, more, less?
Yes. Um, I transferred to Ohio State. My first year in college was at a predominantly small white New England University at Springfield College. And I wanted more culture. I wanted a bigger experience, if you will. I had thought of Ohio State while in high school. I had a friend that attended there and piqued my interest. I'm a diehard Buckeye. And I went in there knowing that I wanted to major in social work with a minor in economics. And that was achieved. Interesting enough, just yesterday or 2 days ago, I spoke with my college counselor, John Hamilton, who's now retired. And he was always involved in my development, my growth, and so on. Imagine that back in 82, as a teenager, I was, about 12 hours away from home by car. And it was very far, leaving New York City, a big city, to small town Columbus. But once on campus, you were your own community. But missing home like usual, uh, hit some bumps along the way. But John Hamilton was always there. Like he was always on beck and call if I needed to speak to him, if I needed his advice. And I promised myself that after I graduated in '86, that I would commit to staying in touch with him once or twice, maybe three times a year. We speak since I graduated in '86, and that's a special thing. What I accomplished was getting obviously my bachelor's degree, being the first in my family, and then promised myself I'll never go back to school. About a year and a half after graduating from OSU, I was doing a master's at City University of New York, a master's in business education with the business courses at Columbia with through the fast track program they ran. Columbia University, New York, and City University, New York, the education masters. Combined those with a special partnership that the Board of Ed had with Columbia for business courses and education master's courses at City University of New York. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I'm sure that if you went away to college, you experienced so many things that really may have shocked you, but yet rewarding about you. And those are the things that I accomplished. And while there, as a Latino, we were interested, a small group of us, about 13, 14 of us, Latinos from different backgrounds, different countries, different cities in the US. So, we either pledge white Greeks or African American Greeks. And we said, what about creating something for Latinos and embracing those who were not Latinos if they wanted to join? And I'm the co-founder of Alpha Psi Lambda, which is the first co-ed national Hispanic fraternity. And and I'm honored to say that last May, I went back to Ohio State to celebrate its 40th year. We're now in about almost 50 campuses throughout the U.S. And that was started by teenagers. As one of the founders, I said, let's get together. I was the second president of that fraternity way back when. When I graduated in 86, I didn't think that the fraternity would grow beyond, let's say at that time, beyond Ohio State. I stayed connected for a few years. Years later, I reconnected when we were at around 25 chapters. Now we're at 40 chapters, almost 50 chapters in the US. So that's a big accomplishment there as well.
Wow, that's well, one, shout out to John Hamilton, right? Just again to be able to maintain that relationship and that connection, somebody that meant so much in terms of facilitating your experience, guiding you, but also just giving you the space to like chart your own course. I can imagine that's been really pivotal to continue to invest in and have that reinvested into you. And
Yeah.
that you actually went right on to my next question. Like, what were some of the foundational relationship that you built during that time? And hearing about that was your academic advisor, correct?
Yes.
And then even knowing that you had a cohort, a group of fraternity brothers and sisters as well that could build alongside you. Something that I'm not sure if y'all anticipated it reaching almost 50 chapters, but like that seemed like it really had a profound impact on one being affirmed in your own identity and helping others recognize who they were as well. That's really awesome.
Yeah, John's influence, knowing that you have somebody there to lean on, obviously besides God, knowing that somebody is going to listen to you and understand from a social work perspective. It's about understanding, listening, and being empathetic and coming up with solutions when there are struggles. I had that in him. And besides that, in my social work courses, we were required to do internships. And one of my first internships was with an organization called Directions for Youth. Another one was with Huckleberry House, and another one was with Big Brothers Big Sisters. So I got into serving, almost always working with young people, but I've served beyond youth all these years. But that's when I feel I found that niche, that's when I found that passion, that this is something I wanted to do. At the same time, the environment influences all of us as to where you live, how you move, what you're able to tap into in that environment is crucial. What you're able to not find is crucial. And knowing that I also had a family in Alpha Psi Lambda fraternity, but we were pioneers, so we had to create everything from scratch. Do we pledge? How do we pledge? Do we create traditions? How do we do that? We created our model, our logo, our design as a startup. And I share that because coincidentally, those little or those huge experiences that I had back then, as far as a startup organization, has influenced me in over 5 startups that I've had in business over the years. And Victor, in reflecting back to 82, I drove to Ohio, left home, and never looked back. And I said, I'm going to make it work no matter what it is. And we were no more than, let's say, 50 Latinos on campus out of about 50,000 students, one of the largest university campuses enrollment wise in the US. So 50, 55,000. And you could only imagine, I'm sure you felt this too, how you're one of a few. So that allowed us to connect more. And then we started to create more, growth within the organization. And all of this started with a retreat that we did. And that retreat was organized by Dr. Josue Cruz, who was part of the Office of Minority Affairs that was just launched on campus. Put together this retreat, and that's where our ideas and our light bulbs started to light up. And as a result of that retreat, 40 years later, with the exception of one of our co-founders who passed away, we're all alive and we're all pretty much in leadership positions. But I can tell you that to me is a huge influence, and I'm still working with youth, for so long now. What I found is that a lot of the universities in that situation where you're one of a few, I don't know if they do a good enough job in embracing you and engaging those students who are away from home. They don't look like everybody else. We eat different foods. We have different customs, oftentimes get lost. Hence, there's a very high dropout rate for African American Latino males. There's a piece of research that shows that for African American Latino males, if they don't return semester 2 of year 1, they're not coming back. And in most cases, they're not even going to complete college. So universities know that by January, when we're due back for the second semester, if they're not there, that kid is pretty much lost in a sense of college education. That doesn't mean they're not successful, but that's just a piece of information. If the universities engage you more, I was fortunate to have found John Hamilton because I did think about dropping out, even in my sophomore year. But he kept coaching and guiding me and motivating me to, hang in there and make it happen. So there were struggles that turned into huge opportunities for me to grow.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. Especially
Hmm.
when you emphasize the importance of finding in sometimes not even finding, but just discovering the community that you can come across when you're in a place that feels a bit displacing. That's really great. And it
Yeah.
sounds like some of those struggles bloomed into opportunities. I'm curious, I guess, were there any other key moments along that route that
Yeah.
were kind of the impetus for you to start Casimiro Global Foundation?
Yeah. Well, if we go back and still think of college and accomplishments, I worked full time. I paid my own bills. I covered my educational expenses. I maintained my classes. Uh, I co-founded the fraternity. I was very active with the social work club and things like that. I volunteered and did my internships. So, coming from a background with no formal education within my parents, my dad went up to the third, no, my dad never went to school. My mother went up to the third grade when she lost her mom. She had to take over the household. Talking about 8 years old, 9 years old. My dad never got a formal education. Um, so being the first in my family to go this far with a master's degree and so forth, it influenced some of my nephews and nieces as well. But I think if you're able to reflect and think back where you found that magic or where you found that passion, I always teach from the perspective of, Victor, if I'm teaching you and I have a group of 100 students in front of me, I always say to them, what I'm teaching you will not only impact you, but it's going to impact your grandchildren. And I firmly teach from that perspective. So if it means an extra hour of teaching and coaching that student, I'm thinking multi-generational, that what this kid gets out of this experience will impact his family, his grandchildren, and so on. So everything I learned there is it manifested itself to so many things. 5 startups, sold two, closed two, and part of businesses and so on. And then in reflecting, dating back to my university experience, it's all been leadership for me. Uh, Co-founder of Alpha Psi Lambda in the university, started 5 enterprises, small businesses, founder of Casimiro Global Foundation, co-founder of Seven Mindsets slash Magic Wand Foundation, co-founder of that, and then co-founder of another foundation of which I'm active with called Ismael Kala Foundation. He's a celebrity. He's the um, Tony Robbins Latino. So I created his foundation with him and running it as well. So it's always been positions of leadership. And then when I go back before college, captain of the Little League football team, captain of junior varsity, captain of varsity high school football, um, leadership. I've always taken those positions, and that there's no coincidence that I also went into Ohio State with being a captain and being a position of leadership in Little League, right? So all that influence. So I teach that to kids. Don't just join clubs, be an officer, be a founder, and apply that or use that to align yourself with the best possible university opportunity when you apply to college. Um, so yeah, it's all transferable. So whatever we learn, we could definitely transfer over to our loved ones, to children or people that we teach and so on. It's been an amazing experience.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that, especially the transferable comment. I feel that it's all XP, right? And sometimes and I have like a gaming helmet on right now. Sometimes we don't know what the next destination or location is until we meet that one character or until we face that one boss or open that one chest that gets us the unlock to go to the next door or something like that. And it seemed like each time that you reached a point of practice where you could practice the things that you gained up to that point, apply them, and build relationships around those. You really sought to, as I say, ring the towel, make the most out of what was saturated in that moment, and just like to allow that to fill your cup and then pour into other folks' cup.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't have a choice but to work. How was I going to live? When I got to Ohio State, I had already transferred from my freshman year where I lived in a dorm. I said, I want to have my own apartment. So that meant I had to work. I had to send money home as an undergrad for my mom's assistants and my parents and one way. I didn't want them taking out a loan or have any additional bills. I'm a firm believer that we are born and therefore blessed because we are alive. And if we have all our functionalities and our vision and our arms, our physique, then God did his job. And then your parents take you in, right? And you have shelter, you have a roof, and you have food, and you have love. So they've done their job. But I think we need to address to young people. I believe that should be up to a certain age at which time you take over as a young adult. What I found is that the more dependency or the more dependent you are on others, the longer it's going to take for you to be sustainable and find your own way. Too many young people are overly dependent, I believe, in their parents. So I knew early on that if I wanted to eat, I had to work. If I wanted my own place, that meant working more hours. Um, I worked night shifts. I've always worked. And that also goes back before I even got to high school. I had a newspaper route at the age of 10, distributing newspapers. Why? Because I didn't want to ask my mom for money. Um, and I would, you know, deliver newspapers in Corona, Queens, where I grew up, and knock on doors and take orders. And then I would ask, is there anything else I can bring you since I'm bringing you the newspaper? I worked out a delivery with pick up local donuts and bagels early in the morning at the diner to then bring it to my clients, which I just called neighbors back then. I didn't know I was an entrepreneur. I was just hustling, making money, and I just brought them something additional. Did they need their garages cleaned during spring? Did they need sidewalk being, shoveled with the snow during winter? So there's always ways to make money. And if you're not making it, I think it's an excuse not to. It could be the simplest thing, which is why, since the age of 10, I've tasted entrepreneurship. I've tasted sustainability with making my own money in this case. I can't say that it's always been great, that I've always been on top of my game. Business is cyclical as well. But I think that that spirit of serving combined with sustainability is crucial. And there is a saying that say you got to help yourself before you help somebody else. That may not necessarily be true. I mean, from a financial perspective, because helping and serving others doesn't really require money, right? It's a lot of other ways you can serve besides cutting a check. Your time, love, direction, guidance, coaching. But it certainly helps to be sustainable yourself before you can help others sustain in bigger ways. It helps, but you can still do it without money, a lot of it. So all of these things are connected as you ask these questions.
They are, and it's again, it's beautiful seeing that web come together.
So with those three, those up until now, you've heard everything is possible. You've heard I found my passion first.
Yeah.
And most recently, everything is connected, meaning we are connected. From John Hamilton's to my extended family with the fraternity, to the fact that I'm going away for 12 hours from home and it's possible to make it work, and challenges of dropping out and not dropping out. That I will graduate with a bachelor's, and that was possible. But it all stems from your faith in God and your own belief that you have the goods to make it.
Absolutely. And I may even go as far as to say, you definitely dropped in the attitude of gratitude in there, recognizing that each position that you are blessed with, that someone saw you a good steward over, you said, hey, I'm appreciative of being here. How do I make the most of that and flip it, not just for my benefit, but for somebody else
Mm,
as well? And that's very
right.
commendable indeed.
Absolutely. Yeah, undergrad alone is challenging for most people. Coming from the background where I came from with without that academic role model, my parents, my brothers and sister, didn't display or even talk about university or college. But the fact that they showed me other things that were very valuable was enough for me to keep moving forward. And college today, I would question whether everybody needs a college degree today. I don't know. You could be successful without it. Back then, it was very significant, still is, but I think times have changed, right? Where you can make things happen virtually through digital knowledge and digital communication, digital education, online college degrees, high school diplomas virtually. So it's changed. However, what you can't replace is that in-person social interaction, cultural exchange, spending time, the emotions, and so on. That I still believe plays a major role in your college education, and it did for me.
It's fantastic. Okay,
Mhm.
Juan, this conversation I think could go on for a very good time. But as we have about maybe like 3 minutes left to close out, I'm curious, recognizing that you have worked with very many age groups and demographics as well. I noticed that it's really been important to you to embrace Gen Z, millennials, and the upcoming youth that aren't just the future leaders, but are the leaders of today. I'm curious,
Yes.
what would be, in my terminology, I like dropping gems, what would be some gems, some essential key points that you would want this upcoming generation, this current generation, to really hold on to as they move and navigate through this life and create what the reality is for today and tomorrow?
Yeah, you may have heard it, but it's the 10 most powerful two-letter words in the English language. And it's simple, but it's very, very true and significant. And those 10 most powerful two-letter words in the English language are: if it is to be, it is up to me. It's not mom or dad. It's not the teacher or your counselor. It's not your buddy. It definitely comes down to you and your self-worth. If it is to be, it is up to me. And I like to share that we can't keep pointing fingers. We can't keep using excuses for our success. I think it's within us. We got to discover it and put that into action. Uh, that's what I want Gen Zs to clearly understand. I think they're being redirected in many places and challenged in many different ways. Times have changed. Obviously, technology's played a role, but having to solely depend on your parents over and over again, year after year, um, you got to figure it out, man. I believe that at a certain age, you should be supporting your parents and helping your parents. And if you go back to history in our communities in Africa, it's an honor that when you reach a certain age to be a servant to your parents. It's an honor, especially when they're older. Um, and I find that it's still the kids are dependent on their parents, even at 25, 30, 40 years old. And I think we've lost a lot of that. And I know that with all this capacity that we have and we have today, there's a lot more that our young people can do. And one of those should be self-sustainable, being self-sustainable. The younger, the better, because then you can survive anywhere and your parents will not be around forever.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, Um, Juan, it's been a joy. It's been a pleasure, an honor to be able to speak with you. Thank you so very much for your time. And any final words? Is there any information you want to share with the audience that may be able to watch this interview later, where they can find more information?
Sure. We're celebrating our 25th anniversary this October 19th of the Casimiro Global Foundation. Again, it was my honor to recognize my father when he passed. I created the Casimiro Global Foundation using our family name, last name, in his honor. And 25 years later, um, we've reached thousands of children in over 35 countries through toy drives, clothing that we donate, toys that we donate, empowering young girls. Aya Inc. empowers girls. Aya Inc. is Entrepreneurial Ladies Leading with Action. Inc. because women are innovative, noble, and courageous, INC. And we are now in 12 countries, empowering them through stage one, which is a 2.5 day workshop that teaches them ideation, innovation using technology. We challenge them to create a social impact project that they pitch. And then the three finalists out of the 25 who pitch advance to the second stage, which is the Aya Inc. Camp. So you got the Aya Inc. Workshop, stage one, Aya Inc. Camp, stage two. Then they fly into Florida International University and they live there with the finalists from other countries. They come together and they work on their business plan based on the idea that they presented. That to me is powerful. And then they go back stage three to implement their ideas in their communities back in their countries. And we want to get to 25 countries. Go to Casimiro Global Foundation.org and learn more about that. And this was an idea that once again, I took it from a leadership position to impact girls based on inequalities that exists, based on cultural myths and so on that girls are brought up with. That you can't be the CEO, you can't be president, you can't go to the university, you got to stay home, be a wife, have children. But it's all manifesting itself, with everything that I've learned. Thank God.
Absolutely. Thank God indeed. Well, Juan, thank you so very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate your time, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, share this with me. Send me the link.
We'll do. All
All
right.
right now.